A very good day to you all and a warm welcome to lecture number 3 of Cricket South Africa's Introduction to Umpiring course. My name is Tom Mokorosi, and as usual, my co-presenter for today is Abdullah Steenkamp. The format of today's lecture will be as follows. I will take you through laws 27 all the way through to law 42, which completes the law book of the laws of cricket. Then we will take a 10-minute break and Abdullah Steenkamp will take us through revision slides, which will all help you to prepare for the Cricket South Africa Introduction to Umpiring exam. After Abdullah has taken us through the lecture of revising, then I will take you through a click-by-click demonstration of how the Cricket South Africa Introduction to Umpiring exam works. While we present, you are welcome to type your questions into the chat box and we will take all of those answers at the end of the presentation. Today, while I present, there is also a quiz question, so look out for that. And please, you are welcome to also type your answer to the quiz question into the chat box when it comes around. So let's get into today's content. And we are starting with Law 27, the wicketkeeper. We can see from that picture that she has an inner, which normally is worn underneath the main glove, and she's also got her helmet on. And what we cannot see here is the external leg guards or the pads that wicket keepers are also allowed to wear. So that is exactly what the law allows for wicket keepers to wear. Law tells us that the wicket keeper is the only fielder permitted to wear gloves and external leg guards. Fielders who field close to the wicket, they are allowed to wear shin pads that must be covered by their pants, so they cannot be external, whereas the wicket keeper's pads, they are allowed to be outside of the pants, and that's why they are referred to as external leg guards. If all of these protective equipment are worn, they are to be regarded as part of the wicket keeper's person for purposes of fielding the ball. If by the wicket keeper's actions and positioning when the ball comes into play, it is apparent to the umpires that he or she will not be able to carry out the normal duties of a wicket keeper, then he or she shall forfeit his or her right to wear the external leg guards and the gloves, and the right to be recognized as a wicket keeper in terms of catching a ball with gloves, stumping out a striker, and the wicketkeeper would then become a normal fielder. We learned last week that you have a maximum of 2 fielders behind the popping crease on the leg side that are allowed. So if the wicketkeeper is no longer in the position of a wicketkeeper, then they will be counted as a normal fielder. The wicketkeeper also will not be allowed to encroach onto the pitch. Now let's watch a video of the movement allowed by the wicketkeeper and also the position that the wicketkeeper must maintain at all times until they are allowed to move. Hang on, let me put the sound on. Just give me 1 second while I switch the sound on. Bear with me. Okay, here we go.
Hello guys, welcome to my channel. First, let's watch a footage from the T20 match between India and Australia, which happened on 21st of November 2018. Australian wicketkeeper Alex Carey ends up touching the stumps before the ball reaches him. And after referring to the third umpire, it was declared a no ball. So what do you guys think about it? It's a no ball because he touched the stumps? Well, let's find out. Before going any further, let us take a look at the restrictions a wicketkeeper has. He has restrictions both on his movement and position. According to cricket law, after the ball comes into play, well, to know when the ball comes into play, watch the above video. And before the ball reaches the striker, it is unfair if the wicketkeeper makes any significant movement. In this case, umpire will call it dead ball and further action will be invalid. However, he is allowed to make certain movements. Let's take a look at them. He is allowed to move a few steps forward for a slower delivery, but doing so should not bring the stumps in his reach. He is allowed to move laterally, like this wicketkeeper, in response to the direction in which the ball has been delivered. He is allowed to move in response to the stroke that the striker is playing, like this wicketkeeper does, but he has to make sure that he follows the law 27.3.1. Let's see what exactly that law is. The wicketkeeper shall remain wholly behind the wicket. He can't even be parallel to the stumps from the moment the ball comes into play till either of the following things happens. Ball touches the bat or body of the striker. So he can come ahead of the stumps right after the ball touches the bat or batsman's body, just like this keeper does. Next case, he can come ahead after the ball passes the stumps, and he can come ahead if the striker starts running without playing the shot. It will be called a no ball in case of keeper violating this law. In the case of Alex Carey, ball had touched the bat when he broke the wicket. Hence, this is not a violation of law. But he was parallel to the stumps before the ball made contact with the bat. Hence, it was called a no ball. Another instance which needs a mention here is Andy Flower's incident. He is clearly ahead of the stumps even before the ball reached the batsman. It should have been called a no ball, but the umpire didn't notice it at all, and unfortunately, it costed Ridley Jacobs his wicket. Still have any doubts with this? Do let me know in the comment section. If you like the video, hit the like button, share with all your friends. To never miss another update from our channel, don't forget to subscribe and click on the notification button.
So there we have it. The wicketkeeper's positioning and movement is restricted to that law. And as the strikers and umpire, you need to be sure that you check that the wicketkeeper's positioning and movement is according to the law. Otherwise, you will call and signal no ball as per the law. Next law that we're looking at is law 28, the fielder. What does law allow a fielder to use to field the ball? Law tells us that a fielder may field the ball with any part of his or her person. However, he or she will be deemed to have fielded the ball illegally if, while the ball is in play, he or she willfully uses anything other than part of his or her person to field the ball. If the fielder extends his or her clothing and uses this to field the ball, that will be considered illegal fielding. If a fielder discards a piece of clothing, equipment, or any other object which subsequently makes contact with the ball, that will also be considered illegal fielding. And we will see some examples of this in slides to come. Very important, it is not illegal fielding if the ball in play makes contact with a piece of clothing, equipment, or any other object which has accidentally fallen from the fielder's person. I'll give you an example to illustrate what the law is telling us here. So a lot of fielders, when they're running, if their momentum or speed is so fast such that the wind blows off the cap from on top of their head, the fielder then collects the ball, throws it in, and the throw hits the cap that has fallen off the fielder's head. That will not be considered illegal fielding. Why? Because that cap fell off the fielder's head accidentally. It was not willfully taken off and thrown down by the fielder. The cap blew off accidentally. If, however, as mentioned in the previous slide, a fielder takes his cap off and extends a piece of clothing or equipment and then fields the ball with that extended piece of clothing or equipment, that will be regarded illegal fielding as per the picture in display currently. Now, here is your question to answer. Before I show you the video, which will give you the answer to this question, is a normal fielder allowed to use wicketkeeper's equipment? We mentioned in the previous law that the wicketkeeper's protective equipment is the gloves that he or she is allowed to wear, as well as the pads that he or she is allowed to wear outside of the pants, external leg guards. So my question to all of you, and you can please type in the answer in the chat box now before we watch the video, which will give us the answer. Is a normal fielder allowed to use wicketkeeper's equipment? Is a normal fielder allowed to use the wicketkeeper's glove? Is a normal fielder allowed to wear the wicketkeeper's pads? Either type yes into the chat box or no into the chat box. Let's have a look at this video, which will give us the answer to this question.
Babar Azam wearing a glove and actually caught the ball, and then that was deemed illegal fielding. As you can see at the bottom of the screen, right, the first delivery, there's 5 penalty runs, and that's because of illegal fielding, because Babar Azam picked up Rizwan's glove and used it to catch the ball,
So as you might or might not know, pictured here, Babar Azam is a former captain of the Pakistan national side, and at the time that this game was played, he was still the captain of Pakistan. So this tells you that even international captains do not know the laws of cricket. So as you can see here, the wicketkeeper had run to go and field the ball, and he had discarded his glove. So quite often wicketkeepers, they know that throwing the ball is difficult with the gloves on. So the wicketkeeper in this scenario took his glove off. There it is in the middle left of the picture. And Babar Azam walked from his position at first slip and thought it would be a funny idea to pick up the wicketkeeper's glove and for the wicketkeeper to throw the ball to Baba Azam. And that's exactly what happened. The throw came in, and Baba Azam was wearing the wicketkeeper's glove, which is not allowed. And as soon as that ball was caught by a fielder wearing the wicketkeeper's glove, the ball automatically became dead, and the bowler's end umpire Asad Razan was seen to award 5 penalty runs to the batting side by tapping his opposite shoulder. So to answer the question posed to all of you, is a normal fielder allowed to use wicketkeeper's equipment? No. We have seen in this scenario that if they do use wicketkeeper's equipment, then the batting side will be awarded 5 penalty runs. So this is the process when there's an instant of illegal fielding. The ball shall automatically become dead, but because a lot of players do not know this law, good umpiring practice is to call and signal dead ball and then explain to them why you're calling and signaling dead ball. The penalty for a no ball or a wide will always stand, so that if there was a no ball or a wide bowled, then that 1 run penalty will be added to the batting team's total. Any runs completed by the batters shall be credited to the batting side together with the run in progress if the batters had crossed at the instant of the illegal fielding. So in that scenario, I think the batters had already crossed for 1 run. So 1 run would have been added to the 5 penalty runs. The ball shall not count as a legal delivery in the over and needs to be rebowled. In addition, as you saw, the bowler's end umpire will award 5 penalty runs to the batting side. And we will inform everybody, and at the end of the match, we will report the incident to the governing body in charge of that particular match or tournament. So, illegal fielding, big punishment in store for the fielding side. They need to learn the laws so that they don't fall foul of this offense. Next law that we're looking at is Law 29. The wicket is broken. It was previously known as the wicket is down. The terminology has recently been changed. We're going to watch an animation video which will teach us more about Law 29. The wicket is broken.
The wicket is down. The wicket is put down when one or both bails are removed from the top of the stumps, or a stump is struck out of the ground. The situation can be brought about in the following ways: by the ball, by the batsman's bat, by the batsman's bat if he or she lets go of it, or even by some flying part of the bat if it breaks, by the batsman's clothing or body, or some part of his or her equipment falling off, by a fielder with his or her hand or arm, providing the same hand is holding the ball. If the bail merely bounces and comes to rest back on the stumps, then that is not out. The wicket is down at the precise moment that both ends of either bail are removed from the stumps, right about now. Should you have further questions on this tricky subject, such as how to put the wicket down when one or both bails have already been removed, head over to Law 29 in MCC's The Laws of Cricket.
So we've seen various ways that the wicket can be put down. Now, what happens if the wicket is put down early in the delivery? Say, for example, the batters go for a quick single A throw comes in from the cover fielder and it hits the stumps and both bails are removed. But the batters were safe, and seeing that the ball after hitting the stumps has rolled away towards the boundary, they turn to run some more, and now a second throw comes in to attempt a run out. Because those bails are on the floor, we now need to put the wicket down in a different manner to what we've just seen on the video. One of the ways that we can put the wicket down for a second time in the same delivery is by putting the ball and the stump together while the stump is still in the ground and then uprooting the stump, as this fielder has done in this picture. If that first throw had only removed one bail from the top of the stumps and the second bail remains, then for the second putting down of the wicket, the fielder can, with ball in hand, simply hit the stumps or the bail with the ball to remove the second bail from the top of the stumps. That will be sufficient to put the wicket down for a second time. Moving into law 30, batter out of his or her ground. Let's watch another animation video to teach us about this law.
Batsman out of his or her ground. When a batsman is out of his or her ground, he or she risks being stumped or run out. So when is a batsman out of his or her ground? According to Law 30, a batsman shall be considered to be out of his or her ground unless the bat he or she is holding or some part of the batsman's person is grounded behind the popping crease at that end. Here, for example, the bat is on the crease marking, but not behind it, which means the batsman is most definitely out. But would the batsman be out now? Both the bat and the batsman are over the line, but neither the bat nor any part of the batsman's person is grounded, i.e. in contact with the ground. So, yes, that's out again. This being cricket, there is an exception to this part of the law. If a batsman who must be running or diving has already made his or her ground, either with the bat or any part of the body, but subsequently loses contact with the ground while continuing his or her forward momentum as the wicket is put down, he or she will be not out. Next question, and this can be a bit of a headache. What constitutes each batsman's ground? Well, when one batsman is in a ground, i.e. grounded behind a popping crease, then the ground at the other end belongs to the other batsman. If neither is in his or her ground, for example, when they are both running between wickets or even stationary, each ground belongs to the batsman who is nearest to it. If both batsmen are level, then where they were before drawing level is the deciding factor. Of course, this being cricket, there are further delightful complications, such as two batsmen in the same ground, or three when you have a striker with a runner. But never fear, all mental anguish will clear with a little quiet meditation and reference to Law 30 in the Blue Book.
By the way, all of these animation videos are on the Laws of Cricket app. If you go to your Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, you can download the Laws of Cricket app. What I'll do is during our 10-minute break, I will post the link to the app on both the Google Play Store as well as the Apple App Store. And the videos are also available on YouTube under the Laws of Cricket playlist. And I will also post the link to that YouTube playlist during our 10-minute break after I've presented my laws. Next law is Law 31, appeals. Very important. An umpire is not to give a batter out without an appeal. Law tells us that neither umpire shall give a batter out even though he or she may be out under the laws of cricket unless appealed to by a fielder. This shall not prevent a batter who is out under any of the laws from leaving the wicket without an appeal having been made. So usually when a batter is out bowled, he or she hears the ball hitting the stumps. Sometimes they look back, sometimes they don't look back. Quite often they just walk off. Bowled doesn't require an appeal because the batters walk off. A caught behind decision, if a batter has clearly nicked the ball and has been caught. Some batters do walk, which is great. If they do not walk, then there has to be an appeal from the fielding side, whether the bowler or any one of the other fielders. If there is an appeal, you heard or saw the ball hitting the bat and the catch was fairly taken, then you give the striker out caught. If there is no appeal, even if you didn't hear, even if you heard a noise and you were 100% sure that there was a bat, but if there's no appeal and the striker does not walk, then law tells us we cannot give the striker out. How long is an appeal valid for? Law tells us that for an appeal to be valid, it must be made before the bowler begins his or her run-up or the first ball of or for the next delivery. Okay, so if the bowler does not have a run-up, then the appeal must be made before the bowler enters his or her delivery stride for the next ball. The delivery stride starts when the back foot lands of the bowler just before he or she bowls the ball. So that's quite interesting. That means that if a ball is bowled and a batter hits the ball, maybe it's a very soft sound and is caught, but there's no appeal, up until the next ball is bowled, any one of the 11 fielders on the field of play can approach the bowler's end umpire to ask, how was that? Was that out? I'm sure I heard the ball hitting the bat. So the window period for an appeal obviously opens as soon as the ball is bowled and it closes until the next ball the bowler starts running in. Very importantly, the call of over does not invalidate an appeal made prior to the start of the following over, provided that time has not been called. So even if it is the last ball of an over, ball beats the bat or just nicks the bat, the fielding side don't have to appeal. They've got up until the start of the next over. When the new bowler starts running up, that is when they cannot appeal anymore. But it could be up to a minute that it takes for the next over to start until the next ball, the run up of the next ball is started. The appeal can still be made by the fielding side. How does a fielding side make an appeal? Any variation of the words "how was that" can be made by any of the 11 fielders, and it covers all modes of dismissal. So when a fielder or a bowler appeals, "How was that, umpire?" They do not have to ask the umpire or tell the umpire what they are appealing for. Law tells us that one appeal covers all 9 modes of dismissal. And we shall be looking at those 9 modes of dismissals shortly. Who answers which appeals? Law tells us that the strikers end umpire can only answer 3 appeals. One is hit wicket, 2 is appeals for stumping, and 3 is appeals for run out at the wicketkeeper's end. The strikers end umpire, who's also known as the square leg umpire, they cannot answer a run out appeal at the bowler's end. The run out appeal at the bowler's end will be answered by the bowler's end umpire. In fact, the bowler's end umpire shall answer all other appeals. So the majority of appeals in a cricket match will be directed at the bowler's end umpire. When an appeal is made, each umpire shall answer on any matter that falls within his or her jurisdiction. So as I mentioned, the square leg umpire or the striker's end umpire cannot answer a run out appeal that happens at the bowler's end. And similarly, the bowler's end umpire cannot answer the run out appeal that happens at the striker's end or the wicket keeper's end. When a batter has been given not out, either umpire may answer an appeal if it is on a further matter and is within his or her jurisdiction. I'll give an example as to what the law is trying to tell us here. So if a bowler bowls the ball and a batter plays a shot which is very close to his or her outside edge, the wicket keeper catches the ball and at the same time whips off the bails and appeals for a caught behind to the bowler's end umpire, and the wicketkeeper also appeals to the striker's end umpire for a stumping. Because it happened first, and because we'll learn court takes precedent over other dismissals other than bowled, the bowler's end umpire will answer the court appeal. If he or she says not out, then the striker's end umpire will answer the appeal for stumping. So as mentioned, one appeal covers all modes of dismissals, and the appeals should be answered by the umpire within which the appeal is in his or her jurisdiction. So let's look at the 9 modes of dismissal. The first one is Law 32, out bowled. The striker is out bowled if his or her wicket is put down by a ball delivered by the bowler, not being a no ball, even if it first touches the striker's bat or person. Very importantly, the striker shall not be out bowled if before striking the wicket, the ball has been in contact with any other player or umpire. So the ball needs to go straight from the bowler's hand to the stumps. Yes, it can hit the striker's bat or person, but it cannot hit any other fielder, any other player, or an umpire before hitting the stumps. I mentioned that catch takes precedence over all other dismissals except for bowled. Why? Because bold is the big boss. Law tells us that the striker is out bowled if his or her wicket is put down, even though a decision against him or her for any other method of dismissal would be justified. Let's give you an example to illustrate how this law works. If, for example, the ball is bowled by a bowler and it's very straight, it pitches on middle stump, it hits the striker on the pad in front of middle, 3/4 of the way up his pad, and would have gone on to hit the stumps, that qualifies perfectly for an LBW decision to be given out. But the ball off the pad went on and hit the stumps. So law tells us here that if two modes of dismissals are possible and one of them is bold, then bold will take precedent. In that example that I've just given, even though the LBW happens before the striker gets bowled, we will ignore the LBW decision and the striker will be out bowled. We will not raise our finger because we normally don't raise our finger when a striker is out bowled. Then the scorers will know that the striker is out bowled. The striker is not out LBW. Why? Because bowled take precedence over all other dismissals in the same delivery. Next law we'll look at is Law 33, caught. Let's watch another animation video to teach us more about this law.
Fair catch. A catch shall be considered fair if the ball is held in a fielder's hand, hugged to the body of the catcher, or accidentally lodges in his or her clothing, helmet, or protective equipment. But of course, this being cricket, it isn't always that simple. If a fielder deliberately uses an item of clothing to try to catch the ball, it is not out, and 5 penalty runs are awarded to the batting side. However, the ball can be caught after it has deflected off the other batsman, an umpire, another fielder, including off a helmet being worn, or even if it lodges in a fielder's helmet. Perhaps the main criterion for a catch to be considered fair is that the ball must not touch the ground before being caught. Here, for example, the ball does not touch the ground even though the hand holding it does so in effecting the catch. This is a fair catch. And then there is the question of catches near the boundary. This is such an interesting subject that we've given it a film all of its own. To catch up on everything to do with catching, simply refer to Law 33 in the Blue Book.
Are there any runs scored when a striker is out caught? Law tells us that if the striker is out caught, runs from that delivery completed by the batter before the completion of the catch shall not be scored. So even if the ball is hit so high up in the air that the batters complete 2 runs before the ball is caught, law tells us here that 0 runs will be added to the batter's score, except for any penalty runs awarded to either side on that particular delivery. No runs off the bat will be scored. So in the previous law, we saw that bold is to take preference over all other dismissals. Bold is the big boss. Caught is the small boss. Why? Law 33.1, Law 33.3 tells us that if a striker is out caught and the striker is not out bowled, then he or she is out caught, even though a decision against either batter for another method of dismissal would be justified. I'll give you another example to illustrate this particular law. So bowler bowls the ball, batter hits the ball straight back at the bowler in the air. Bowler tries to take a catch, but the ball just flicks one of his or her fingers and it goes on to hit the stumps at the non-striker's end. The non-striker, because he or she expected to run a single, was outside of his or her crease when the ball hit the stumps. So that adds up to all the laws for a run out. All the conditions are met for that non-striker to be out run out. However, that ball, after hitting the stumps, stays in the air, loops up to the mid-on fielder who takes a simple catch. So even though the run out happened before the catch was taken, law tells us here that court will take precedence. The non-striker will not be given out run out. The striker will be given out caught. Very important for umpires in a scenario like that to wait for everything to play out, because if the bowler's end umpire is quick to give the non-striker out run out, then the ball immediately becomes dead when a batter is dismissed. Then the non-striker would be out run out. So wait for the entire delivery to play out. Once the catch is taken, then the bowler's end umpire should give the striker out caught. Why? Because law tells us that court takes precedence over every other mode of dismissal except for bowled. Next law we're looking at, law 34, hit the ball twice. Let's watch another animation video to teach us about this law.
Hit the ball twice. Hit the ball twice and you're out. Unless, of course, you're defending your wicket or it was accidental, in which case you're still in. The striker is out, hit the ball twice, if, while the ball is in play, it strikes any part of his person or is struck by his bat, and before the ball has been touched by a fielder, he willfully strikes it again with his bat or person. The key word here is willfully. But if this had happened instead, the batsman would remain in. In other words, inadvertent double strikes don't count. The batsman is allowed to hit the ball a second time in order to guard his wicket. He can use his bat or almost any part of his body. He cannot, however, use a hand that's not holding the bat. The only time you can't use your bat to hit the ball twice to defend your wicket is when it would prevent a catch. The batsman can also hit the ball a second time in order to return it to a fielder, as long as a fielder has given him permission to do so. If you'd like to swat up on this a bit more, simply turn to Law 34 in the Blue Book, where you'll find all the nitty-gritty detail you need.
We have learned the theory. Now let's watch the law in practice in a real match scenario.
Oh, that's a ball there. It's directed at the batsman again. Once more, we just see Chopper charging halfway down the pitch without even looking at his strike partner. Take another look at this. Is this for the double hit? Yeah, that's exactly what it's for. He just did it twice. Yeah, that's incredibly unprofessional there by Mughal. So he's dismissed.
So that striker was given out, hit the ball twice. Next law we're looking at is law 35, hit wicket. When is a striker out hit wicket? The striker is out hit wicket after the bowler has entered the delivery stride. And while the ball is in play, his or her wicket is put down by either the striker's bat or person in any of the following circumstances. If the striker is in the course of any action taken by him or her in preparing to receive or receiving a delivery and puts his or her wicket down, they will be given out hit wicket. If the striker in setting off for the first run immediately after playing at the ball puts his or her wicket down, then the striker will be given out hit wicket. If no attempt is made to play the ball by the striker, but in setting off for the first run, provided that in the opinion of the umpire, the striker sets off immediately after having had the opportunity of playing the ball, and the striker puts his or her wicket down, then they will be given out hit wicket. If the striker in lawfully making a second or further strike for the purpose of guarding his or her wicket puts his or her wicket down, then they shall be given out hit wicket. Let's look at point number 2 in action. The famous Sachin Tendulkar was given out hit wicket against Australia when this happened.
There he goes. He pushes back and he's gone. Hit wicket. 2 for 26. What he's saying is, I was pushing off the run, I completed the shot. Rules been changed. Once you break the stumps, no matter how you do it, that's out.
Sachin Tendulkar was setting off immediately for his first run, and in doing so, put down his wicket with his foot, and that met all the requirements for a hit wicket dismissal. He was correctly given out hit wicket by the striker's end umpire. When will a striker be not out hit wicket? If the striker puts his or her wicket down in any of the ways described in the previous slide, before the bowler has entered the delivery stride, the striker will be not out hit wicket. Why? Because either umpire needs to call and signal dead ball if the striker puts his or her wicket down before the bowler enters his or her delivery stride. That is before the back foot lands of the bowler, just before they bowl the ball. Other circumstances when the striker will be not out hit wicket: if the striker puts down his or her wicket, but it occurs after the striker has completed any action in receiving the delivery, then he or she shall be not out hit wicket. If the striker puts down his or her stumps or his or her wicket when in the act of running, but they were not setting off immediately for the first run, then the striker will be not out hit wicket. If the striker was trying to avoid being run out or stumped when he or she put down his wicket, then the striker shall be not out hit wicket. If the striker was trying to avoid a throw at any time and then put down his or her wicket, that striker will be not out hit wicket. If the bowler, after entering the delivery stride, does not deliver the ball, then the striker cannot be given out hit wicket, even if he or she puts down his or her wicket. If the delivery is a no ball and the striker puts down his or her wicket, the striker will not be given out hit wicket. Why? Because There are only 3 modes of dismissal possible under a no ball. Hit wicket is not one of those 3 modes of dismissals. Moving on to law 36, leg before wicket. Let's watch another animation video to teach us this law.
Leg before wicket. LBW. LBW is a little like the offside rule in football. Many people claim to know it, but how many people really do? Our handy checklist means that whether you find yourself umpiring an international test match or the kids on the beach, your reputation for fairness will remain intact. There are 5 basic criteria to consider. The batsman is out, leg before wicket, if 1. The bowler bowls a ball that isn't a no ball, unlike this poor fellow. 2. The ball, if it is not intercepted on the full, pitches in line between wicket and wicket or on the offside of the batsman's wicket. It cannot be out if the ball pitches outside the line of the leg stump. 3, the ball hits the batsman either full pitch or after pitching and before he hits it with his bat. 4, this is where it gets a bit more complicated. If the batsman was making a genuine attempt to play the ball, the point of impact must be between wicket and wicket for LBW to be an option. However, if the batsman has made no genuine attempt to play the ball, the contact must either be between wicket and wicket or outside the line of the off stump. 5. This is the crucial part. But for the interception by the batsman, the ball would have gone on to hit the stumps and dislodge the bails. Any questions? Just refer to Law 36 in the Blue Book.
Very important when it comes to the impact the ball makes. Only the first impact will be considered when assessing a leg before wicket decision. What does that mean? It means that if the ball hits the pad first and then the bat, we will only consider the where the ball hit the pad and where it would have gone on to if it didn't hit the pad. And we ignore the bat because the bat was after the pad. If it has hit both pads, then we consider the first pad. Was that impact in line? Would the ball have gone on to hit the stumps if it did not hit the first pad? Very importantly as well, in assessing an LBW decision, if the ball makes contact with the striker's person and the bat simultaneously, law tells us that we shall consider this as the ball having first touched the bat. So we will give the striker not out if the ball hits the bat and the pad at the same time. Next law we're covering, Law 37, obstructing the field. Let's watch another animation video to talk us through it.
Obstructing the field. A batsman is out obstructing the field if he or she willfully attempts to obstruct or distract the fielding side by word or action. Like this, for example. Thank you, Tommy. In particular, it is considered to be obstruction if, while the ball is in play and after the striker has played the ball, either batsman willfully strikes the ball with a hand not holding the bat or any other part of his or her person or with the bat. The exception to this is when the batsman is attempting to defend his or her wicket. The batsman may do this with the bat or any part of his or her person, except with a hand not holding the bat. If the batsman uses such a hand, he or she will be out obstructing the field. the handle the ball law no longer exists, with such incidents now covered by obstructing the field instead. The obstruction has to be willful. Accidental obstruction, or obstruction caused by trying to avoid injury, does not count, and the decision on that is down to the umpire. It's worth noting that if a catch is obstructed, it is the striker who is out, even if it was the non-striker who caused the obstruction. Mind you, it's not always an easy decision. Here, the batsman deliberately crosses out of the legal running area in order to attempt to obstruct a throw. There is no other reason why the batsman should be running across the pitch. What looked an accident was, in fact, an illegal incident. To avoid any possible confusion, read Law 37 in black and white in the blue book.
Next law we're going to look at is the run-out law. When is a batter out run out? Law tells us that either batter is out run out if at any time while the ball is in play, he or she is out of his or her ground and his or her wicket is fairly put down by the action of a fielder. This can happen even if a no ball has been bowled and whether or not a run is being attempted. When will a batter be not out, run out? Law tells us that a batter is not out, run out in the following circumstances. If he or she has been within his or her ground and has subsequently left his or her ground to avoid injury when the wicket is put down, the batter will be not out. If the ball has not subsequently touched a fielder after the bowler has entered the delivery stride before the wicket is put down, the batter will be not out, run out. What this means is that there needs to be intervention from a fielder. So if the striker, for example, hits the ball straight back down the wicket and the bowler cannot get to it and the ball goes and hits the stumps at the non-striker's end and the non-striker is out of his or her crease, will that be given out, run out? No. Why? Because the bowler did not get a touch on the ball. No fielder from the fielding side touched that ball. Therefore, the striker or the non-striker will not be out, run out, even though he or she was outside of his or her ground when the wicket was put down. There needs to be intervention or a touch from a member of the fielding side to affect a run out. And in the next animation video about stumping, we will find out another scenario when a batter is protected from being out, run out. So it is quite long and difficult to explain. Better to show it on the stumping animation video. Speaking of the stumping animation video, that is the second last law that we're going to look at, and we are going to be taught the stumping law via our last animation video for the day.
Stump. All batsmen fear being stumped, and all wicket-keepers dream of stumping batsmen. So let's be clear about the law. The only player who can stump a batsman is this fellow, the wicket-keeper. A stumping can take place provided that the ball is not a no ball. You can be stumped off a wide, however. Here, for example, the batsman has moved out of his or her ground to play the ball, but has missed it and has not attempted a run. The wicket is fairly put down by the wicket-keeper without the intervention of another fielder. When all these conditions are met, the batsman will find that he or she has indeed been stumped. It's also okay for the ball to rebound onto the stumps of any part of the wicketkeeper, including his or her protective equipment or helmet. If it is a no ball, the batsman will not be out-stumped and is also protected from being run out as long as he or she is not attempting a run. Don't be stumped about stumping. Get a copy of the Blue Book and study Law 39.
Perfect. Moving on to the last mode of dismissal. Law 40 is timed out. Law tells us that after the fall of a wicket or the retirement of a batter, the incoming batter must, unless time has been called, be ready to receive the ball or for the other batter to receive the next ball within 3 minutes of the dismissal or retirement of the previous batter. If this requirement is not met, the incoming batter, upon appeal, can be given out, timed out. Very important when there's a timeout appeal to check your watch to see that the new batter has taken longer than the allowed amount of time, but also ask the new batter, why did they take so long? If there's a wholly acceptable reason that they took so long, then you will turn the appeal down and not give the batter out. A wholly acceptable reason could be that the team is sharing batting equipment. So when one batter goes out, the new batter needs to take the old batter's pads, put them on, put the gloves on, and put the helmet on that the old batter was using. So for me, that would be a wholly acceptable reason not to give the batter out. The last two laws that I will speak about, Law 41 and Law 42, are not examined in Cricket South Africa's Level 1 exam. They are not examined in Cricket South Africa's Introduction to Umpiring exam. So we merely just touch on them. Law 41 looks at issues such as the changing of the match ball, the changing the condition of the match ball. Some people refer to it as ball tampering. Law 41 also looks at the delivery of short pitched bowling, that is also known as bounces. Law 41 also tells us how, as umpires, we need to deal with full tosses above waist height. That is also considered unfair play. Law 41 also deals with time wasting by both the batting side and the fielding side. How do we as umpires deal with that? Law 41 also deals with the pitch. Are players allowed on the pitch? When are they allowed on the pitch and when are they not allowed on the pitch? And in particular, the protected area. So we will learn all about that in level 2 for those of you who get there. Law 42 speaks about player conduct, and it highlights the 4 level type offenses that players might get into trouble for. So what are the level 1 offenses and what is the punishment for level 1 offenses? What are level 2 offenses and what is the punishment for level 2 offenses? What are level 3 and what are level 4 offenses? And what are the punishments for level 3 and level 4 offenses? We will look at that as well in level 2 for those of you who choose to travel that entire umpiring journey with us. Thank you very much, everybody, for your attendance and your interaction. We will now be taking a 10-minute break. We will resume again at 2:15. Stay tuned. Do not leave the meeting room so that your connectivity remains solid. See you in 10 minutes. Thank you and goodbye for now.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for rejoining us after our 10-minute break. So, with this being our final lecture, and with the exam being about 7 to 10 days away, so what I've done is I've going to help you prepare for your exam next week. So I've compiled these revision slides. And with these revision slides, together with the main slides plus your law book, this will help you to get ready for your exam next week. So, kicking off my revision lecture, I'm starting with the spirit of cricket. And why is cricket so loved by everyone? Why is cricket called the gentleman's game? It's called the gentleman's game is because it's not just played within the laws, but also played within the spirit. So the major responsibility to make sure that play is fair is on the shoulders of the captains. They are responsible to make sure that the game is played according to the laws and also within the spirit. But also the rest of the team, umpires, especially in junior games, the teachers, the coaches, the parents, they also play a vital role to make sure that the game is played fair and also within the spirit of cricket. Respect is crucial when it comes to the spirit of cricket. You need to respect your captain, your teammates, your opponents, and vitally, they need to respect the authority of the umpires. Yes, we're happy. Players can play hard, but they need to play fair. And at all times, they need to accept the umpire's decision. Law 1 covers the players. And in terms of the number of players, so usually a match gets played between two sides with 11 players on each side. But the law allows for games to be played with less than 11 players or even more than 11 players. But there is a condition, especially if you're going to go play a game with more than 11 players. So you'll often find, warm-up games or trial games where there's about 14, 15, 16 players that the coaches wants to have a look at. So the law allows for those type of games. But if you are going to play a warm-up game with 15 in your side, when it comes to fielding, all 15 cannot field at the same time. The law puts a max, and that max is 11 players only to field at any given time. Max of 11. You cannot have 12 fielding, 13, 14, 15, 20 players fielding at any given time. On any given time on the field, max of 11. When it comes to the nomination and the replacement of players, each captain to nominate his or her team, and that nomination needs to be in writing. On the right is just an example of a nomination sheet that we used in club cricket in Cape Town. So when the umpires get to the field, we hand this to the captains. They need to complete this, and they either need to give it to us before the toss, or they can come to the toss with the nomination sheet completed in writing. The law allows for a player to be changed in the team. If a player becomes injured, the law allows for that player. But the condition is for a player to be replaced, you need the consent of the opposing captain. Captain say yes, you then can replace the player. If the captain say no, unfortunately, that player cannot be changed. When it comes to the umpires, let's have a look at a few duties that the umpires needs to perform. So before the toss, before the game starts, umpires needs to meet with both captains. And what do they need to discuss? We need to discuss Which balls are we going to use for this match? We need to discuss the hours of play. When are we going to start? When are we going to end? What time will lunch be? What time will our tea time be? What time will drinks be? Which watch are we going to use for this particular game? Also, we need to discuss the boundary. How far is the boundary going to be? Are there any obstacles like rugby poles or soccer poles inside the field of play? And if we do find rugby poles inside the field of play, what are we going to do if the ball hits it? You need to discuss this before the toss. The use of covers, discussed before the toss. And if there's any special conditions for this game, also discuss it with the captains. And whatever discussions and agreements was made with the captains, please go chat with the scorers and let them also know what was decided. Who are the judges of fair and unfair play? Is it the captains? Is it the coaches, players? The law is quite clear. Umpires and umpires alone are the sole judges of fair and unfair play. We are, impartial, we objective. Yes, players will be subjective. And because of it, the law puts fair and unfair play in the hands of the umpires alone. Who decides whether the field is fit to play, whether the light is good to play? So when it comes to fitness of play, is it in the captain's hands? Is it in the players' coaches? Again, here, it's in the umpire's hands. And the two umpires, together, they need to decide whether the conditions for, whether it's the ground, whether it's the weather, whether it's the light, if they feel it is dangerous or unreasonable for play to take place. When it comes to where the umpires needs to stand, is there a specific place exactly where you need to stand? The law guides us where the umpires needs to stand. Firstly, let's start with the bowlers in umpire. The bowlers in umpire needs to stand in a position as not to interfere with the bowler's run-up or the striker's view. So there's not an exact point. How far do you stand from the stumps? Is it a meter? Is it 2 meters? Is it half a meter? Is it on the stumps? It's all when it comes to the bowlers in umpire should not be interfering with the strikers or the strikers view or bowlers run up. When it comes to the strikers in umpire, here the law specific. The law tells us the strikers in umpire needs to stand on the leg side, needs to stand on the onside of whichever batter it is. If it's the right-hand batter, strikers in umpire needs to stand on the onside. So the law specific here, you need to stand on the onside. But we also know there are times where it's not always possible to stand on the onside, like when there's lots of fielders around the bat, like a silly sword leg, a leg and leg slip, all crowding on the leg side. Not strikers in umpire, if standing on the leg side, not able to see the popping crease, not able to see the stumps. So that's just an example of where your view is blocked. So it would be better to go stand on the offside. So the law allows for this. It's late setting sun is another example. If you stand on the onside with the late setting sun in your eyes, you're a bit blinded. So the law allows for you in those circumstances to go stand on the offside. As long as you inform the captain of the fielding side, the striker, and the other umpire. But default, you need to stand on the onside. So throughout the day, scorers and umpires, they chat to each other all day. How do they talk to each other? They talk to each other non-verbally. I mean, we basically like 80 or 100 meters from the scorers. So we talk to the scorers via signals. So it's very important for the umpires to know the signals. And here are 12 of the most common signals. and with the outside raised finger above your head, um, second from left top, with the force signal, and you need to end up with the hand in front of your chest. The With the wide ball signal, you need to keep your arms horizontally. That's the wide ball signal. Dead ball signal, crossing your arms in front of your waist. These are just few basic signals that you signal to the scorers. And importantly, all signals that you make to the scorers, they need to acknowledge your signal. How do they acknowledge? They can either use a light, they can wave at you, they can wave a piece of paper, doesn't matter, but they need to acknowledge your signal. There will be time when there's more than one signal of one ball. Like a bowler would bowl a front foot no ball, the ball would hit the pad, and the striker would play a shot, and from the pad it ricochets to the boundary for four. So now no ball was bowled, so you need to signal that no ball to the scorers, and you need to wait for acknowledgement. Then you need to signal the leg by, and the scorers needs to acknowledge your leg by signal. And lastly, you need to signal boundary four, and the scorers needs to acknowledge that boundary four. So you need to signal separately to the scorers. Don't ever signal more than one signal in the same motion, like a leg by and a four signal to the scorers at the same time. No, you need to signal them separately. So first the leg by, they acknowledge, then the four, boundary four, they need to acknowledge. Don't do it at the same time. When it comes to the pitch, for most cricket around the world, men's and women's cricket, length of the pitch is 20.12 meters and the width is 3.05 meters. When it comes to who chooses the pitch, so before the game starts, the curator will choose the pitch and will then prepare the pitch for the match. After the game has started, umpires, they now in charge of that pitch, and they will decide what to do with the pitch. Are we allowed to change the pitch? Yes, the law allows for it, but there are conditions. Firstly, the umpire needs to feel that the pitch has now become either dangerous or unreasonable. And then also, if the umpires, after deciding, we think this pitch is now dangerous or unreasonable, then they need to go to both captains and ask the captains, we think it's dangerous and unreasonable, the pitch. We want to change it. We need your permission. If both of you say yes, we can change it. If there's no consent, we then unfortunately cannot change the pitch. And then I mentioned the length of the pitch. For most forms of cricket, male or female, 20.12 meters and 3.05 meters. But the law also recognise that junior cricket, especially your under 7, your under 9, your under 11, which are very small boys and girls. So the law allows for the governing body of cricket for that country. They can decide whether they want, okay, we'll keep the pitch at 20.12 meters, or because of this, them still being young, we'll make it a bit smaller. It's up to the governing body. They can decide. They can decide. But that's just for junior cricket, your small, your under 9s, 11s. But from upwards, 20.12 meters the pitch. Intervals. These, we're going to focus on scheduled intervals, and these are intervals that was decided by the governing body for that competition before the game started. An example of a scheduled interval is period between close of play on day one and the start of the next day's play, scheduled interval. Your interval between innings, scheduled interval. Interval for meals, like your interval for lunch or your interval for tea, scheduled interval. Your drinks interval is seen as a scheduled interval. And lastly, any other agreed interval also seen as a scheduled interval. So these are intervals decided by the governing body before play before play start. So how long your lunches are, and your teas. What time it is. So in the law book, They leave it up to the governing body to decide when and how long these scheduled intervals should be. All they tell us is they just guide us. If you decide that your lunch time, let's just use lunch as an example. If lunch should be 40 minutes, then you need to make sure that players and umpires enjoy a 40-minute lunch. So if you leave the field at 12 o'clock, first ball after lunch needs to be bowled at 12:40. Everyone must enjoy a 40-minute lunch. If you leave the field at 12:02, you need to have a 40-minute lunch. Then first ball after lunch needs to be bowled at 12:42. Interval between innings. Here the law specific tells you that interval between innings is 10 minutes long. So law 12 covers, so how do we start the game? How do we end the game? How do we end a session? Yeah, we get guided by the law. And to start the game, so bowlers and umpire need to call play. So once everyone's ready, let's say day one, it starts at 10 o'clock. Um, Fielders are ready, batters are ready, scorers are ready, umpires are ready. And the watch is now 10 o'clock. To indicate that play is now going to start, the bowlers and umpire needs to verbally call play, call it out loud, and call play. That indicates that play is now going to start. Also need to call play after the resumption of play and after an interval. Um, Bowlers and umpire will call it, and that would indicate the restart after the interval or interruption. So now we know how to start the game, how to start a session. How do we end the day's play? How do we end the match? How do we end a session? By the call of time. Again, the bowlers and umpire needs to call time when the ball is dead. So before calling time, the bowlers and umpire first need to check whether the ball is dead. And yes, okay, I see the ball is dead. Now the bowlers and umpire can call time. So an example, in let's say a test match, play starts at 10 o'clock, bowlers and umpire calls play. Lunch is at 12 o'clock. We get to 12 o'clock. Umpire look at the watch, sees it's 12 o'clock. Umpire will then, after the sixth legal ball of that over is bowled, is now 12 o'clock. Umpire will call over, time, and say, ladies and gents, we're going to enjoy a lunch. When it comes to completing an over, I've just mentioned that let's say lunch is at 12 o'clock. But now we get to 12 o'clock and we've only bowled 3 balls in the over. Do we stop at 12 o'clock on the dot and go take lunch? No. The law tells us, please first finish that over. And after completing the over, now you can go and enjoy lunch. There is an exception, and that exception is if there's less than 3 minutes to go to our lunch interval, and if a wicket falls or a batter retires, even if it's mid over, we will then take lunch immediately. How do we score runs? There are 3 ways to score runs. Firstly, as often as the ball is in play, if the batters run, they make good the ground from end to end. They can run as many runs as they want while the ball is in play. That's the first way to score runs. By hitting either boundary 4 or boundary 6, that's another way to score runs. And lastly, penalty runs. When they are awarded, that's also how runs can accumulate. Examples of penalty runs are a no ball is an example of a penalty run. A wide is an example of a penalty run. Excuse me. I've mentioned that one of the ways to score runs is batters running from end to end while the ball is in play. But the law wants them while they're running. They need to make good the ground at their respective ends. One batter, the striker needs to put his or her bat or part of the person behind the popping crease on at the bowler's end. Then they allow to turn. Similarly, the non-striker need to complete that run, put something behind the popping crease. Now they can turn for the second. But there are times where they do run short. There are, unintentional short run or accidental short runs. They are deliberate short runs. And a short run is when a batter while turning for the second or third or fourth, they failed to make good the ground at that respective end. So that's seen as a, a short run. Also, a striker setting off, you often find strikers standing in front of the popping crease. And if they stand in front of the popping crease while facing the ball, hits the ball into the cover, set off for a single, um, striker gets behind the popping crease at the bowler's end, turns for the second. The law sees the striker. If they do start from running in front of the popping crease, the law don't see that as any issue. They can do so without penalty. So can the striker score runs when either batter is dismissed? Usually, no runs to be scored if a batter is dismissed. Yes, penalty runs will apply, like no ball or wides. But if a batter is dismissed, no runs to be scored. There are two exceptions. If a batter is dismissed obstructing the field, runs completed by the batters before the offence to be scored. However, if the obstruction prevents a catch, unfortunately, no runs to be scored. Secondly, if a batter is dismissed run out, a run scored before or runs completed before the either of the batters were out run out, that runs will count. So if the batters completed 2 runs and the one batter gets run out on the third run, those 2 runs that they completed will count towards the score and the batter. When a striker is dismissed in any of the modes of dismissal, the not out batter needs to return to their original ends in the following dismissals. The striker's out bowled, non-striker needs to go back to the original end. Similarly for stumped, hit the ball twice, LBW, hit wicket, caught, striker's out caught, non-striker needs to go back to the original end. Obstructing the field, and the obstruction prevented a catch from being taken, non-striker needs to go back to the original end. Next law is dead ball. We're going to cover when the ball is automatically dead. So the ball becomes automatically dead when it finally settles in the hands of the keeper or the bowler. As soon as a boundary 4 or boundary 6 is scored, ball automatically becomes dead. When a batter is dismissed, ball automatically dead. Whether played or not, it becomes trapped between the bat and person of the batter, ball automatically becomes dead. When the ball lodges in the clothing of a batter or it gets stuck in the clothing of an umpire, the ball automatically becomes dead. When a player returns without permission, touches the ball automatically becomes dead. Similarly with illegal fielding. If the ball hits the helmet that was placed behind the keeper by the fielding side while it is still in play, ball automatically becomes dead. And lastly, as soon as the match is done, ball automatically becomes dead. Call of over and the call of time by the bowlers in umpire. Please, bowlers and umpires, wait till the ball is dead before you make the call of over or the call of time. Don't be in a hurry. Look at the play. Look if the ball is dead. If the ball is dead and you need to call over, then you call over. Similarly, if time needs to be called, wait till the ball is dead, then call time. Noble, we're going to cover a few nobles as per the laws of cricket. We're going to kick off with the mode of delivery. So it's very important by the bowlers in umpire. As soon as the bowler comes to hand the cap to you, you need to ask the bowler, are you going to bowl with your right hand or your left hand? And which side are you going to bowl? Are you going to bowl over the wicket or are you going to bowl around the wicket? After getting that info from the bowler, you, the bowlers in umpire, needs to relay that information to the striker. So practically what will happen? Bowler comes to you, and I would say 99% of the time, the bowler actually, before you even need to ask, the bowler will tell you, Umpy, I'm bowling right arm, and I'm going to bowl over the wicket. You will then inform the striker. Striker, bowler is bowling right arm, and will come over the wicket to you. So this is what is called the mode of delivery. How you going to bowl, which hand and which side. Now the law sees it unfair if the bowler changes now the mode of delivery. I will get to the punishment now. So what is meant by change the mode of delivery? So now, let's say first ball of the over. Bowler hands before the when the over starts, bowler hands the cap to you. You now informs the striker, bowler's going to bowl right arm over the wicket. First ball gets delivered, no issue. Right arm over the wicket. So now suddenly, let's say the second ball of the over, the bowler decides to bowl with the left hand without informing the umpire. Now this is where the law says this is unfair. And if that bowler, without informing the umpire, suddenly changes the mode, suddenly bowl with the left hand, you, the umpire, needs to intervene. And now, how do you intervene? By calling and signaling no ball. So it is only unfair if the bowler fails to notify the umpire of the change. But if the bowler let you know before bowling, before changing, absolutely no issue. The law allows for that. You can bowl with your right hand the first delivery. You can bowl with your left hand the second. You can go back to your right hand the third ball. You can go back to your left arm the fourth ball. No issue according to the law. But the issue is you need to notify the umpire, because if you don't and you change your mode, the umpire needs to intervene by calling and signaling no ball. Underarm bowling not permitted in any cricket, except there are some competitions that do allow underarm bowling, like in blind cricket. And the law does not want the ball to be thrown. Let's have a look at the feet and how the law sees the feet. Let's start with the back foot, because there is a difference between how the law treats the back foot and how the law treats the front foot. With the back foot, there's a crease that goes with the back foot, and that crease is the return crease. So the law wants the back foot not to touch that return crease. So if bowler's bowling and delivers, or any given time, that back foot must land within and should not be touching the return crease. So that's the back foot. When it comes to the front foot, which crease goes with the front foot? The popping crease. So the law wants the front foot, and it must have some part of that foot, whether grounded or raised, behind the back edge of the popping crease. And also on the same side of the imaginary line, joining the two middle stumps. If this is not the case, if the back foot touches the return crease, or there's no part of the front foot behind the back edge of the popping crease, umpire needs to call and signal no ball. This is 3 examples. If you look at the back foot, you can see the back foot is touching the return crease. That's why this delivery will be a no ball. Front foot we're happy with, because you can see the front foot is behind the popping crease. Issue here is the back foot, and it's touching that return crease. That's why it's a no ball. Front foot we're happy with. You can see the front foot is way behind the popping crease. That back foot, is it touching the return crease? No, it's not. That's why we're happy with the back foot. That's why this is fair delivery. And lastly, back foot we're happy with. It's not touching the return crease. Front foot, is the part of that front foot behind the back edge of the popping crease? Yes, there is. That's why this is a fair delivery. When it comes to other forms of nobles, as per the law wants not more than 2 fielders to be on the leg side behind the popping crease. So if you can visualize this being a right-handed batter, the dark green shaded area that is now behind on the leg side behind the popping crease. So now excluding the keeper, we won't take the keeper into account. There can only be a max of 2 fielders in this dark green shaded area. Let's say a short fine leg standing here, or even a fine leg on the boundary, and then let's say a deep square leg on the boundary. Anywhere in this dark green shaded area, a max of 2 allowed. If there are more than 2 fielders behind the popping crease on the leg side, like in this pick, right-handed batter, there's a short leg under the helmet behind the popping crease, that's 1. There's a leg slip, that's 2, and there's like a short, fine leg here, that's 3. So there are 3 fielders behind the popping crease on the leg side, and the strikers in umpire correctly called no ball. Umpire needs to take back or to revoke the call of no ball if the bowler had overstepped and you've called no ball, and for whatever reason that bowler decides not to deliver the ball. You can at times find of a single ball, the bowler bowling a no ball and a wide ball. So now there's a wide and a no ball. Do you give the wide and the no ball? Which one do you give? The law tells us no ball is boss. So if at any time of the same delivery there's a wide and a no ball, you will ignore the wide and you will only take the no ball. No ball is boss over wide. No ball not to count as one of the legal balls. That ball needs to be rebowled. And lastly, under the no ball law, how to be dismissed of a no ball? There are 3 ways. Hit the ball twice, obstructing the field, and run out. These are the only 3 ways, as soon as no ball is called, how you can be dismissed. Let's have a look at the wide ball. And in particular, when do you call and signal wide? So if you now judge the ball to be wide, in terms of calling and signaling it, please wait till the ball passes the striker's wicket, then you call a wide. Don't be in a hurry to call wide. Wait till it passes the striker's wicket. Even though technically according to the law, the ball is already wide as soon as the bowler enters the delivery stride, but in terms of calling it and signaling it, wait till the ball passes the striker's wicket, then call and signal wide. Wide is also not one of the legal balls in the over. And lastly, under the wide law, how can you be dismissed of a wide? There are only 4 ways, and they are hit wicket, obstructing the field, run out, and lastly, stumped. Law 23 covers buys and leg buys. For my this revision lecture, I'm just going to focus on leg buys. When do we allow leg buys and when don't do we allow leg buys? So what happens? What needs to happen for leg buys to be allowed? Firstly, the ball needs to hit or strike the anywhere on the person. Yes, I know they call it leg buys, but it can hit whether it's the leg, whether it's the arm, whether it's the tummy, any part of the person, or the protective equipment of the striker. So the ball hit the person or the protective equipment. And for leg buys then to be given, there's conditions that needs to be met. And what are those conditions? Striker needs to attempt to play the ball with his or her bat. Or striker needed to try to avoid being hit by the ball. So in an example where bowler delivers, it hits the pad, it then ricochets to fine leg. Can the batters run? Yes, they can run if the condition of either attempting to play the ball with the bat or trying to avoid the ball being hit by the ball. If that is in place, batters can then run leg buys. Even if a no ball was called, they can run the no ball to count. Well, you need to signal no ball to the scorers and you need to signal the leg buys to the scorers as well. So now we know when leg buys can be awarded. But there are times when we will not be awarding any leg buys. So we've just seen the conditions of when leg buys to be awarded. You need to play a shot at the ball or try to avoid being hit by the ball. So leg buys will not be awarded if the striker did not attempt to play at the ball with his or her bat, nor did the striker try to avoid being hit by the ball. That's why, I mean, in all levels of cricket, you'll often find strikers shouldering arms, ball ricochets to fine leg, and then they start to run, and you'll hear the players shouting, "No shot, no shot, no shot," and that is where this law comes in. They're right. The law does not see those runs taken as leg byes if you did not attempt to play at the ball or try to avoid being hit by the ball. So, what happens if a striker do shoulder arms and it hits the pad and it ricochets to fine leg and they do start to run? You'll be amazed. It happens at all levels, from the highest right down to club cricket. Lots of players don't know the laws and they will run. So, what do you do as umpires? We now know the striker didn't offer a shot. We know they're not supposed to run, but yes, they do run. Don't intervene too quickly because the law guides you when you need to intervene as bowlers in umpire. So intervene only once the ball either reaches the boundary or the batters has now completed a run. And on the completion of that first run, now you intervene. So I'll use my example. Bowler delivers the ball, batter shoulders arms. So visualize batter shouldering arms. Don't play a shot. It hits the pad, it then ricochets to fine leg. The batter then starts to run. Don't intervene too quickly. Let them run. As soon as they run and the striker now comes, gets to behind the popping crease at the bowler's end, and the non-striker gets to behind the popping crease at the striker's end. Now they've completed that first run. Now you intervene by calling and signaling dead ball. But I've just said those leg byes, if you don't play a shot, should not be awarded. So yeah, you've called and signaled leg byes now, but those runs should not be awarded. So you need to disallow the one run that they took. You need to send them back to their original ends. That run will not count because the batter didn't offer a shot. You need to signal no ball to the scores if applicable. If there was a no ball, you need to signal it and award any 5 penalty runs except ball hitting the helmet behind the keeper. Law 24 covers substitutes and what happens if a fielder needs to leave the field. Let's start with substitutes. When do we allow a substitute? Umpires to allow a substitute if the umpires are satisfied that that fielder became injured or ill and that injury or illness happened in this game. If that is the case, fielder comes to you, umpire, my hamstring, fielder's injured, you will allow that player to go off for treatment and you will allow a substitute to come in his or her place. And for wholly acceptable reasons, you'll also allow a substitute fielder. What powers does the substitute fielder have? Very limited powers because the substitute fielders cannot bowl, they cannot bat, they cannot be captain. Yes, the law allows them to be a wicket keeper, but they need permission of the umpires before they can be a wicket keeper. So you can see very limited powers that the substitute have. Literally, substitute can only field. So what happens if a fielder is absent or needs to leave the field of play? A player comes to you saying, umpire, I've injured my hamstring, I need to go off. The law guides us. The law says, yes, okay, player is now injured. We'll allow a substitute, but what you need to do is you need to take out your notebook and write down the player's name. Let's say Gabby. Gabby going off for injury to hamstring, and you need to write the time Gabby is going off. We'll see later on why it's important to write down the time. Then, before Gabby can come back on after receiving treatment, Gabby needs your permission of either of the umpires before they can come back on. They cannot just walk onto the field. And usually, practically, what happens, they'll stand on the edge of the boundary and they'll say, Umpy, I'm ready to come back on. You acknowledge Gabby's signal and you'll then say, Gabby, yes, as soon as practicable, come back onto the field. So why is it important that you need to know when Gabby came back? Because you need to write down the time Gabby came back. Why is that important? Because you need to calculate how long Gabby was off the field. So, and why is that important that you need to know how long she was off the field? Because the law wants, before Gabby's allowed to bowl, she needs to first feel for that same amount of time that she was off. And then she can bowl again. I mentioned earlier the importance of a player getting permission of either of the umpires before they can come back onto the field after receiving treatment. And there's quite a harsh punishment if a fielder do come back to the field without informing the umpire. So what is the punishment? As soon as that fielder that came back without permission touches the ball, at that instant the ball becomes dead. 5 penalty runs to the batting side. Completed runs to be scored. And also, if they've crossed at the instant that fielder touched the ball, that run will also count if they've crossed. The ball not to count as one for the over. And then lastly, you'll inform everyone of what just happened and the punishment you gave and why. And then you need to report this to the governing body. So yeah, vital that a player do inform you when they are returning back from injury. Law 25, and what we're covering is batters retiring. So the law allows for a batter to retire. But the ball first needs to be dead, and once the ball is dead, now the batter can retire. And before the batter leaves the field, the batter needs to come to the umpires because needs to tell the umpires why he is retiring. Because the law tells us if the batter do retires because of an injury or illness or unavoidable cause, then that batter can come back later on to bat. But if a batter retires other than injury, illness, or an unavoidable cause, that batter can only come back later on with the permission of the opposing captain. The striker always has a right to play at the ball. Fielders, wicketkeeper should never be interfering with the striker. The striker's got a right to play at the ball. Even in to defend his or her wicket, striker's got the right. But in playing at the ball, the striker must always have some part of his or her bat or person remaining within the pitch. The law does not want the striker to leave the pitch to play at the ball. If the striker do decide to leave the pitch to play at the ball, the umpire, needs to intervene. And how do you intervene? By calling and signaling dead ball. Striker needs to be on the pitch to play the ball. Cannot go off. The moment the striker goes off the pitch to play at the ball, you need to call and signal dead ball. When it comes to appeals, umpire not to give any batter out if there's not been an appeal. There must be an appeal for you before you can lift your finger as an umpire. And I had instances where I hear the nick and I was 100% sure there was a nick, but no one appealed. Not the bowler, not the keeper, not the slips, not any of the 11 fielders appealed. Although I was 100% convinced I heard a nick. I cannot be giving the batter out if there was no appeal. So I kept my hands down. If there was an appeal, I would have given the batter out. So there must be an appeal to before you can give the batter out. Although the law do make provision for those honest batters that if they do nick the ball and there's no appeal, they can leave the wicket even if there's been no appeal. The great sportsmanship, there was a nick, no one appealed, but because they play the game honestly, they walked, is what we call it in cricketing terms. We'll allow batters to walk even if there was no appeal. In terms of the timing of the appeal, it must be made, or the window period closes for an appeal once the bowler gives his or her first step to bowl the next delivery. Soon as the bowler bowls the next delivery or take that first step to bowl the next delivery, the window period for appeals closes. You cannot appeal after as soon as the bowler takes his or her step to bowl the next delivery. Even if you call over, the window period for appeals is still open. provided that time has not been called and that whoever's bowling the next over didn't take his or her first step. So how do you appeal? The law guides us. The law tells us by saying, how's that? And that covers all ways of being out. When you're appealing, you don't need to be specific. You don't need to say, how's that umpire for LB? How's that for caught behind? You don't need to, be specific. If you say, how's that covers all ways of being out. Let's go through a few dismissal laws. We'll start off with the court law. And I'm going to play the animation video again for you. And after the video, I'll highlight a few things.
Fair catch. A catch shall be considered fair if the ball is held in a fielder's hand, hugged to the body of the catcher, or accidentally lodges in his or her clothing, helmet, or protective equipment. But of course, this being cricket, it isn't always that simple. If a fielder deliberately uses an item of clothing to try to catch the ball, it is not out, and 5 penalty runs are awarded to the batting side. However, the ball can be caught after it has deflected off the other batsman, an umpire, another fielder, including off a helmet being worn, or even if it lodges in a fielder's helmet. Perhaps the main criterion for a catch to be considered fair is that the ball must not touch the ground before being caught. Here, for example, the ball does not touch the ground even though the hand holding it does so in effecting the catch. This is a fair catch. And then there is the question of catches near the boundary. This is such an interesting subject that we've given it a film all of its own. To catch up on everything to do with catching, simply refer to Law 33 in the Blue Book.
We've just saw a few instances in the animation video of where the ball hit the helmet, goes up in the air, and the catch gets taken. According to the catch law, that is out. You'll be amazed how many players don't know this. Even if it hits an umpire and ricochets off the umpire, and the ball gets taken before landing on the floor, that is also out. Even if it hits the non-striker and ricochets from the non-strikers, let's say straight to the mid on-fielder, and it gets taken before the ball hits the ground, also out. Lots of players don't know this. I've seen players saying, "Oh, umpire did the helmet, shouldn't be out. Umpire did the umpire did shouldn't be out. Umpire did the non-striker, it shouldn't be out." We saw in the animation video, it is out. Leg before wicket. Then again, just go over the what the law say when there is an LB appeal, what you need to consider.
Leg before wicket. LBW. LBW is a little like the offside rule in football. Many people claim to know it, but how many people really do? Our handy checklist means that whether you find yourself umpiring an international test match or the kids on the beach, your reputation for fairness will remain intact. There are 5 basic criteria to consider. The batsman is out, leg before wicket, if 1. The bowler bowls a ball that isn't a no ball, unlike this poor fellow. 2. The ball, if it is not intercepted on the full, pitches in line between wicket and wicket or on the offside of the batsman's wicket. It cannot be out if the ball pitches outside the line of the leg stump. 3. The ball hits the batsman either full pitch or after pitching and before he hits it with his bat. 4. This is where it gets a bit more complicated. If the batsman was making a genuine attempt to play the ball, the point of impact must be between wicket and wicket for LBW to be an option. However, if the batsman has made no genuine attempt to play the ball, the contact must either be between wicket and wicket or outside the line of the off stump. 5. This is the crucial part. But for the interception by the batsman, the ball would have gone on to hit the stumps and dislodge the bails. Any questions? Just refer to Law 36 in the Blue Book.
So just to recap again the important points that you consider according to the law as soon as there is an LBW appeal. Firstly, the ball shouldn't be a no ball. The law wants the ball to either pitch in line between wicket and wicket, or it wants the ball to pitch on the offside of the wicket. So that's why when it comes to pitching outside leg, and you've often heard they say if it pitch outside leg can never be out LBW, and this is the reason why. Because when it comes to pitching, the law wants the ball to land or to pitch either between a wicket and wicket or on the offside of the wicket. As soon as it touches the bat first, you cannot consider that LBW. If it touches the bat first. If it touches the pad first, then you can consider the LBW, but there's still other factors that you still need to take into account, which we're going to get to later in the slide. But pad first, never LBW. If it did pad first, you can then consider, but there's other factors that you also need to take into account. The ball can intercept any part of the striker's person. Yes, I know they call it LBW or leg before wicket. And I would say 99% of the time, yes, it goes against the leg, but the law allows for any part of the person. So it can go against the tummy, it can go against the arm. Doesn't matter. Any part of the person, you can consider the LBW appeal. And when it comes to the point of impact, here again the law is specific. It must be between wicket and wicket for you to take that LBW shout to consider it. Impact must be between wicket and wicket. There is a but, and that but is if the striker didn't make a genuine attempt to play at the ball. If that is the case, now the impact can either be between wicket or wicket or on the offside of the wicket. But that's an exception to the rule. But usually when it comes to point of impact, if a shot has been played, point of impact needs to be between wicket and wicket. And lastly, and very importantly, yes, all these 6 bullet points are important, but the last bullet point, in your opinion, you need to be 100% sure that that ball was going on to hit the stumps. That's usually your last question you ask. Could the ball gone on to hit the stumps? If yes, after ticking all the other boxes, if you've ticked all these boxes, give the striker out. If you leave one of these boxes unticked, go not out. When it comes to the interception of the ball, the law tells us only to take the first interception into account when doing an LBW, when considering an LBW appeal. So let's say the ball hit the front pad first, then it goes against the back pad. When it comes to your LBW decision and whether you're considering LB, you only consider the first interception. In my example, when it hit the front foot, you won't consider the back foot one. First interception, that is important. And if there's been contact with the striker's person and bat at the same time, the law guides us by telling us that this to be considered as having touched the bat first. I mentioned earlier, the ball pitches outside leg stump can never ever be out LB. Of course, the law wants it either to pitch between wicket and wicket or on the offside. I've mentioned that a batter not playing a shot. Now you can consider the LBW, even if the impact was outside the off stump. But also importantly, and lots of players think this, you find it at any level where as soon as the player don't play a shot and it is the pad, players believe, oh, especially bowlers, umpy, that's out, no shot offered, no shot offered. But but there are, I'm told you, there are, according to the law, there are 6 points that you need to consider, and that last point was you still need to ask yourself, even if though no shot was played, would it have gone on to hit the wicket? And if the answer to the question is yes, like in this slide, this pic, look where it hit, look where the stumps are, look at the line of the ball. Yes, striker didn't play a shot, but in your opinion, you need to ask yourself, would this have gone on to hit the stumps? If yes, you can give the batter out. If you don't think this was going to hit the stumps, then go not out. The penultimate law that I'm covering, Tom, before handing back to you, is the run out law. How can you be run out? Just to summarize again, the law wants either batter while the ball is still alive, while the ball is still in play. They need to be behind the popping crease at their respective ends. And if they're not behind the popping crease at their respective ends, and the wicket is put down by any of the 11 fielders, the either batter will be out run out. Even this no ball was called, we've heard earlier that one of the ways that you can be dismissed of a no ball is run out. So if a no ball was called and the batter is not behind the popping crease and the wicket is put down by any of the fielders, batter to be given out run out. And so if you take the wicket and if you run out one of the batters, you give it to one of the bowlers. No, you don't. A bowler will not get credit for a run out. And last law that I'm covering, Tom, is the stumped law. I'm again going to play the animation video again, but then I just want to highlight one or two things that I see week in, week out on the cricket field at all levels where players don't know the law and they will still argue with the umpires. But I'll get to that. Let's first have a look at the video.
Stumped. All batsmen fear being stumped, and all wicket-keepers dream of stumping batsmen. So let's be clear about the law. The only player who can stump a batsman is this fellow, the wicket-keeper. A stumping can take place provided that the ball is not a no ball. You can be stumped off a wide, however. Here, for example, the batsman has moved out of his or her ground to play the ball, but has missed it and has not attempted a run. The wicket is fairly put down by the wicket-keeper without the intervention of another fielder. When all these conditions are met, the batsman will find that he or she has indeed been stumped. It's also okay for the ball to rebound onto the stumps off any part of the wicket-keeper, including his or her protective equipment or helmet. If it is a no ball, the batsman will not be out-stumped and is also protected from being run out as long as he or she is not attempting a run. Don't be stumped about stumping. Get a copy of the Blue Book and study Law 39.
Now, you see it often, players don't know the laws. I've seen ball ricochets off the keeper's helmet. We saw now in the animation video, if it ricochets off the helmet onto the stumps and the batter's not behind the crease, batter can be given out or should be given out stumped. Similarly, I've had the ball go against the keeper's arm and then ricochets onto the stumps with the striker sort of the ground. Striker was complaining, yeah, but it went against the keeper's arms. Still, according to the law, out. Even it goes against the leg, ricochets from the leg onto the stumps, and the striker's not behind the popping crease, striker to be given out stumped. Tom, thank you so much. That's all revision slides I have. And now back over to you.
Thank you very much, Abdullah. And I hope that the candidates were listening carefully and taking notes, because, ladies and gents, those revision slides will help all of you to pass your introduction to umpiring exam, and you can use them before the exam for revision purposes. And even during the exam is an open book exam. You can use those slides to help you to answer the 35 true or false questions. So let's have a look at the logistics that will follow between now and the start of your exams. And quite importantly, it might come as a shock to some of you, but to those of you who have been reading my emails carefully, Abdullah mentioned that your exam is starting next week. That is not correct. Your exam is actually starting on Friday in 2 days' time. Okay, so don't panic. You have a 10-day window period in which to answer or attempt the Cricket South Africa Introduction to Umpiring exam up to 5 times to achieve the pass mark of 80%. So if you feel that you're not yet ready on Friday, it's fine. You can study the whole weekend and you can make your first attempt on Monday. Whenever you feel ready, you will have received 2 emails in your inbox on Friday, the 19th of September, anytime between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. So Umpires Universe, the website administrators, have promised me that all 2,500 of you will be sent the 2 emails on screen now between 9 a.m. in the morning and 5 p.m. on Friday afternoon, the 19th of September. They cannot send all 2,500 of you the 2 emails exactly at 9 a.m. They have to send them in batches. So throughout the day, they will be sending you these 2 emails. What are these 2 emails? The first email is a welcome to Umpires Universe email. And the second email says that you have been enrolled in a new course. And that new course for all of you will be the introduction to umpiring. What you will do, I will show you, I will play a demonstration video as to how then to use the first email to log into the umpire exam website and start the exam. You will, some of you get these emails in your spam folder. So please make sure that you have checked both your inbox and your spam folders throughout the day on Friday to ensure that you have these emails available to you. These emails will only be sent to those candidates who have registered for the Cricket South Africa Introduction to Umpiring course. That registration link was sent out a week before the first lecture and is also available on the email that I sent last week, Saturday. And I have just posted it into the chat box as Abdullah was finishing up his presentation. But please do not enter your details again into that Google form if you have already registered for the course. If you've received emails from me in the past, that means you have registered for the course. Okay, so no need to register again for the course, because once you've registered for the course, you automatically will be registered for the exam on Friday. What you can do is you can copy and paste that Google Form link and send it to any of your colleagues in your hub or anyone in another hub who is a NYS Phase 4 beneficiary that has not registered for the exam. You can send it to them. They can open the Google form, complete the Google form, and once they send it, then they will be registered for the course, and they will receive the 2 emails for the exam starting on Friday. Do remember that you've got a 10-day window period to attempt the exam up to 5 times to achieve the pass mark of 80%. There are 35 true or false questions, and 80% of 35, if I'm not mistaken, is 28. Let me just check that on my calculator. That is correct. You need to get at least 28 out of 35 questions correct for you to pass the Introduction to Umpiring course. And Umpires Universe have informed me that when you pass your exam, then the certificate will not be sent to me. It will be emailed to you, and there will be a link on that email for you to download your certificate. So that is how the certificate processing is going to work. I am now going to play you a demonstration video of how to log into the website and to start the exam. And this video was taken about a month ago for level 1 candidates who were about to start their level 1 exams. Please note that in that process for level 1, their certificates would be sent to me, and then I would forward them to you. But I've been told by Umpires Universe that for this exam, to make it easier for everybody, when you pass your exam, the certificate will be sent to you, and you then will be able to download the certificate from that email that is sent to you after you've passed. Apart from that, everything else should be the same in terms of the process of the exam. So let's watch the video of how to log into the exam website and to start answering the Cricket South Africa Introduction to Umpiring exam. Let us now look exactly as to what that exam looks like. The best is to click on the first email that you receive, welcome to Umpires Universe, and because you will need your username and your password. So you click on the link to the website. So your username is your email address. So I'm just going to copy that, and then the password I can copy as well and paste it. And it's a good idea to keep yourself signed in so that you don't have to sign in every time you come back to the website. And it will take you immediately to your dashboard. You will notice that I am enrolled for 2 courses. You will only be enrolled for 1 course. You need to go to enrolled courses, and here you will see what courses you are enrolled for. I am enrolled for the level 1 umpiring exam as well as the introduction to umpiring exam. So we click on start learning, and what I think is the most important part of this particular setup is before you start the exam, you need to include or select your region. I think maybe I need to go click on start quiz, because there should be a drop-down list of all 16 Cricket South Africa provincial associations. Let's see if when I click on start quiz, then that list will appear. Yes, it does. Okay, so now very important. There, as I've mentioned, there are 16 provincial umpires associations in South Africa. No matter where you are in South Africa and no matter where you are in the world, please, for purposes of this exam, you all need to select Western Province. Even if you're in Durban, even if you're in Johannesburg, even if you're in Klerksdorp, even if you're in Port Elizabeth or Gqeberha, please click on Western Province. Why should you click on Western Province for this exam? Is because your certificate will be sent to the head of training of the provincial association that you select. So if you select the Orland as your provincial association, then your certificate, when you pass, will not be sent to training at wpcua.co.za. It will be sent to the head of training of Borland Cricket Umpires Association. So please, no matter where you are in the world and no matter where you are in South Africa, you need to select Western Province as your provincial association so that your certificate, when you've passed, is emailed to training@wpcua.co.za. Thank you. Once you've done that, then you can click on Submit Quiz, and that hopefully should start our quiz. So then it will come to your dashboard of that particular exam. Your exam will show up here, level 1 umpiring exam. And we need to simply, if you've made more than one attempt, it will show your first attempt and exactly how far you have gone with that attempt. So I am going to start the exam, 35 true or false questions. If I click on next, then you will see the introduction to examination exam screen. It tells us that there are 35 questions. We have 30 minutes to attempt them, and we have not attempted it yet. We have a maximum of 5 attempts. The pass mark, similar to the level 1 exam, is 80%. And ladies and gents, you will see that I'm closing all other web browsers. This is to make sure that the internet is used entirely for this exam, so that when you submit your answers, it does not hang and take up too much time, because you will see that there is a time limit for the exam. So we are going to start quiz. And remember that for the introduction to umpiring exam, there are 35 questions. They are all true or false. Here is our time in the top right-hand corner, counting down from 30 minutes down to 0. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you log into the exam website, and that is how you start answering the introduction to umpiring exam. Remember that you will all receive your 2 emails from Umpires Universe on Friday during the day, anytime between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Please keep checking your inbox and also keep checking your spam folder, just in case the email doesn't go to your inbox, it goes to your spam folder. Once you pass your exam, then you will receive another email from Umpires Universe, and on that email, you'll have a link to download your certificate. For all of you who pass the Introduction to Umpiring exam, you will be invited by email and by WhatsApp to join us for the Cricket South Africa Level 1 course, which will start on Monday, the 6th of October. So stay tuned for that, and I wish you all the best for your introduction to umpiring exam so that you can all join us for the level 1 starting in October. Okay, so now that we've gone through all the exam logistics, let us go through the questions and comments posted in the chat box. I see all of you answered no to the question, can a fielder use cricket wicket keeper's equipment? And I'm glad to see that all of you answered no. We do have a question from Buitumelo asking, does the umpire have to check if the fielders are wearing wicketkeeper's equipment? Buitumelo, it is quite clear and obvious to see if anyone is wearing external leg guards and also if they're wearing gloves. Only the wicketkeeper is allowed to wear those. So if you do see other fielders wearing external leg guards, which are pads outside of their pants, or they are wearing wicketkeeper's gloves and they are not the wicketkeeper, then you need to tell that fielder to take off their external leg guards and their wicketkeeper's gloves. You must tell them that only the wicketkeeper is allowed to wear pads outside of the pants and also wear wicket keeping gloves or any gloves for that matter. And you must let them know that the reason that they need to take them off is that if the ball comes into contact with external leg guards worn by a fielder or gloves worn by a fielder who are not wicket keepers, then 5 penalty runs will be awarded to the batting side. Okay, cool. Let's move on through the chat box. What will happen if the bowler bowls the wicket down? Snow Bunny, I'm not 100% sure what you mean by that. I think you mean if the bowler bowls the ball and the striker misses the ball and the ball hits the stumps behind the striker, that would mean the striker is out bowled. So if I go back to our presentation and I look at the slide of the law cover slide for law 32, which is out bold. Please, Snow Bunny, tell me if this is not what you mean, because this is a picture of a striker out bold. Yes, Abdullah?
Tom, I think what he's trying to ask is, what if the bowler knocks down the bells at the bowler's end? I think that is what he might be asking.
Okay, go ahead, Abdullah. So this is an example of a striker being out bowled. If the bowler bowls the ball and it hits the stumps at the striker's end, then they will be out bowled. But Snow Bunny, if you meant that the bowler hits the stumps at the bowler's end, then Abdullah is going to describe to us what happens then. Abdullah?
So, Snow Bunny, there is a law that covers that exact scenario. So, if a bowler, while delivering the ball, put down the wicket at the bowler's end, let one or both bowls are on the floor, and the bowler puts it down with any part of the bowler's person, whether it's the foot, the knee, the the leg, the upper part, any part of the bowler's person, while they're delivering the ball, if they put the bowls on the floor or one bowl on the floor at least, you need to call and signal no ball. So that is what you need to do as the bowlers in umpire. If you do see the bowler while delivering the ball, put the wicket down with any part of his or her person, you need to call and signal no ball. Over, Tom.
Thanks, Tula. Next question is from Georgina. She asks that the links that I sent during the 10-minute break of the Play Store and the App Store, where you can download the Laws of Cricket app, as well as the link to the playlist for the animation videos. Those are on YouTube. She wants me to send those links via email. Georgina and everybody else, on Thursday after the lecture tomorrow, which will be exactly the same lecture as we have delivered to you today, I will be sending all registered candidates for the course an email which describes the logistics for the exams, as well as all course material. And all course material includes those 3 links that are posted during our 10-minute break. So, Georgina and everybody else, you will get those links on email tomorrow, late afternoon, around 5 p.m. On that email will also be a recording of one of this week's lectures, either Tuesday's lecture, today's lecture, or Thursday's lecture. We're covering the same content. The best lecture in terms of the questions asked and the interaction with the candidates, that will be the lecture that we post onto YouTube. So you will get a recording of this lecture, or tomorrow's lecture, or Tuesday's lecture. Another question from Buitumelo. If there's an appeal, does the game have to pause? Abdullah, do we cause a big scene as umpires? Do we say, wait, 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 quiet, quiet, come together as 2 umpires, and then we answer the appeal? What happens when an appeal is made by a bowler?
Yeah, so Boitemelo, no, there's not a pause. But what will happen is everyone will look at the bowlers in umpire. Let's say the appeal is for LBW. So as soon as that appeal comes in, everyone's going to look at the bowlers in umpire to see whether he or she is going to give it out or not out. So they know there's not a pause. There's an appeal. Bowlers in umpire then needs to decide, yes, I'm giving this out LBW, or if he or she is not giving it out, then they need to go, no, not out, not out. So yeah, so that happens usually after an appeal, either out or a not out. There are times where the umpires do get together. Let's say the striker nicks the ball and it goes to first slip, and first slip takes it low to the ground, and the bowlers and umpires not sure whether the ball carried or not. So there are instances where the umpires, bowlers and umpire will tell the fielders, just hang on for a second. I just need to consult my colleague quickly. Need to find out whether the ball carried or not. So then there will be a pause while the 2 umpires chat whether the ball carried or not. If they're happy that it carried, we'll give the striker out. If they're happy that it did not carry, we will then, the decision then will be not out. Over, Tom.
Thanks, Tula. Next question, also from Buitumelo. Is it really possible for a batting side to use only one bat during the match? I made the example, Abdullah, for timed out. You need to find out from an incoming batter why they took longer than the 3 minutes allowed by law to get to the wicket and be ready for the next delivery. And one of the reasons could be that the batting team is sharing bats. Now, it's not common, but Puitumelo, where a team is not well off in terms of finances and resources, they do share kit. I remember when I was growing up at school, I didn't have money to buy a bat for myself. So our team was provided with a kit that had 3 sets of pads and 2 bats. We didn't have a helmet. We had 2 sets of gloves, And I, being a left-handed batter, I needed to use right-handed gloves because they only had two sets of right-handed gloves. So it does happen that a team could have a limited amount of kit that they need to share amongst themselves. I've never seen a team with only one bat because usually when a cricket match happens, there are two batters on the field. So most teams will at least have two bats that the two batters at the crease will use at the same time. And then when the one goes out, the incoming batter will take the bat of the outgoing batter. So Budumelo, we have to make do with the resources that we have. The game must go on to make sure that the side is not unfairly disadvantaged. I will find out why the new batter took so long to come in. If it's because they're sharing kit, then I will not give that batter out timed out. Moving along through the chat box, the next question is from Tefo. What happens if the batter leaves the ball, which is not a wide delivery, and the ball slightly touches the batter's person on his or her body, then goes straight into the hands of the wicketkeeper? Abdullah, are you going to give that out? LBW, are you going to give that out? Caught behind? Is there a reason to give out the batter, or is that not out?
So, Tifu, yeah, you need to. I'm not able to visualize your scenario. I'm looking like it's only, a slight. You're saying slight touch. So yes, the fielders will appeal for caught behind. I can promise you, they will go up. And seeing you need to go on what you saw, and what you saw was the ball hitting the person and not the bat. So on this appeal, you're going to go not out for the caught behind appeal. If it did hit the pad or any part of the body, and you want to consider the LBW appeal and it ticks all the boxes. Remember, you need to go through that list of 6, and with the last box on that list being would it have gone on to hit the wicket, and if it ticks all those boxes, you can give the striker out LBW. But yeah, just looking at your scenario, Tifo, I would go not out on this appeal. Over, Tom.
Thanks, Abdullah. Next question is from Buitumelo. Will we get the last lecture link? Yes, Buitumelo, as mentioned earlier, on Thursday afternoon after our lecture with the Thursday class, I will download the best video of the week in terms of the recording of the lectures. I will email all candidates who have registered for the course. The email will include the exam logistics, and it will include course material. And part of that course material is a link to the recording of all 3 lectures. So when I mean all 3 lectures, I mean lecture number 1 from 2 weeks ago, lecture number 2 from last week, and lecture number 3 from this week. Okay. Balisar asks, can a bowler dispute an umpire's decision? Abdullah, I'm sure you've had this happen to you before. Is it allowed, and how do you as an umpire react to a bowler disputing your decision?
So Palisa, often, many a times, all the appeals, if you've bowler appeals and you've given a decision, and let's use LBW as an example, it's the pad appeal, you go not out, 99.999%, the bowler is going to come to you to ask you why. Good umpiring practice. It helps, build rapport with the players. It helps you, earn your stripes amongst players and teams. Is you had a reason why you gave not out. Give the bowler a reason why you said not out. And most of the times, bowlers do come ask, politely why. They want to know why. You give your reason. Most of the times I don't agree with your reasons because bowlers always think everything is out and batters think things they're never out. But yeah, you give your reason. But if it is polite, I've got no issue. I will explain to the bowler why I gave it a not out. Uh, but that is if the bowler comes to me and politely asks why I gave a not out. But if a bowler disputes my decision, not happy, kicks the ground, swears, that is now showing dissent to my decision, and this is against, firstly, against the spirit of the game, and secondly, we didn't cover law 42 in this course. But for those of you that's going to do level 1, 2, and 3 with us, we in there we will cover law 42 as well. So there is punishment if a bowler in disputing an umpire's decision, you can give code that bowler with a level 1 or a level 2 offense, and there's appropriate punishments for these offense. So Palisa, yes, I've got no issue bowler asking me nicely why I gave my decision, but as soon as and you can just see the body language and tone and the reaction, whether they're disputing your decision, whether they're not happy. And if I do see dissent, I will definitely code the bowler. Over, Tom.
Thanks, Tulap. Uh, Puitumelo has got a very nice message for us. She says she doesn't have any further questions, but I would like to thank both Mr. Mokorosi and Mr. Steenkamp, as I am new in cricket. When I joined the NYS program, I knew nothing about cricket, but this lecture gave me a clear vision of cricket and the rules as a mini cricket coach. Puitumelo, I'm glad that we are able to help improve your knowledge and experience of the laws of cricket. And we hope that this is just the start of your cricket coaching career and maybe the start of a cricket umpiring career. Uh, go along with both journeys as far as you can. Somewhere along the line, you'll need to make a decision as to which one to pick. You know exactly which one I want you to pick, but the decision is for yours to make. As long as you enjoy the game of cricket and you are involved in it for years to come, I'm sure you will do well whichever field you choose. Zenobia asks, what would happen if a player fielded the ball with his cap? And 3 minutes later, Ntombi Futi answered the question expertly. Dombifuti says if a player fields the ball using his cap, it is considered illegal fielding under the cricket rules. The ball is immediately declared dead, and a 5-run penalty is awarded to the batting side. So, Abdullah, it looks like Dombifuti is ready for level 2, not even level 1 at this level that she has answered that question. So, Zenobia, what I will do to add to Ndombifuti's answer is just to uh, show you the slide that I did show earlier. Maybe you were not with us. If a fielder extends his or her clothing or equipment, and clearly it's not worn and used for what it should be used for. In this example, we can see the cap is being used to field the ball. That is considered illegal fielding. What happens if a fielder fields the ball illegally? Always the penalty for a no ball or a wide shall stand if a wide or a no ball was bowled. Any runs completed by the batters shall be credited to the batting side together with the run in progress if the batters had crossed at the instant of the illegal fielding. The ball shall not count as a legal delivery in the over and needs to be rebowled. The bowler's end umpire shall award 5 penalty runs to the batting side, and we will inform everybody. And at the end of the match, we will report the incident to the governing body in charge of that match and tournament. So there is your full answer, Zenobia, to your question. Zenobia's got another question. Abdullah, I'll give this one to you. If a fielder makes an unfair movement behind the batter, what does the umpire call? Does the umpire call anything? Is it unfair for a fielder to move behind the batter?
So, Zenobia, we get guided by the law in terms of what movements a fielder is allowed to do and what is a fielder not allowed to do. So there's a specific law, a specific section, and it guides us. And I'll cover those three instances, or what is a fielder allowed to do in terms of movements. Let's first focus on a stationary fielder. So if you can visualize a short leg fielder standing under the helmet, let's say on the onside, or a silly point fielder standing under the helmet close to the batter, or even a fielder, but as long as the fielder is close to the batter. So what is that fielder allowed to do? So that fielder needs to stand still at all times. As the bowler is running in, that fielder can slightly move in preparing, to get himself or herself ready, for the ball. Like you'll see a short leg fielder under the helmet. As the bowler is running in, they will crouch down. They will initially be up, but then they'll crouch down to get ready. Now the law allows for those slight movements if you a fielder that is close to the bat. So if you're in front, you're definitely not allowed to walk in. You need to stay still. If you short leg or silly point fielder, you are allowed to slightly move. Let's say to crouch down to get ready. So that is what is allowed for that fielder that's in front that needs to stand still. Secondly, let's say the fielder is standing in the covers. What are those fielders allowed to do and what are they not allowed to do? So now the law guides us here. The law tells us those fielders are allowed to walk in, and you often heard the saying, walk in with the bowler. Yes, the law allows for that fielder to slightly, walk in with the bowler, but only walking forward towards the batter is allowed. Moving sideways or back, that's not allowed. And then thirdly, what is allowed is, um, as soon as a batter um, shapes to play a certain shot, like let's say reverse sweep or the lapse shot, as soon as the batter shows that intent, the law also allows then any fielder to move in response to the particular shot. So those are the three instances where the law allows fielders to move. Any other instances, the law sees unfair and there is a punishment, and part of the punishment is 5 penalty runs to the batting side. So to come back to your question, you're referring to a fielder that's behind the batter. So I'm not sure how far behind the batter they are. Is it a spinner bowling? Is it a first slip? Or is it a third man fielder standing on the boundary? Or is it a gully fielder? But we'll apply the same principle to wherever the fielder is standing. So if it is slip, the law allows the slip not to walk in. Slip needs to stand still, but the slip can get ready to, as the bowler is running in, by let's say just crouching down. If it is a point on the circle, the law allows for that point to walk in towards the bowler. If it's a third man on the boundary, similarly, you can walk in towards the bowler. Over Tom, I hope I've covered everything. I'm not exactly sure where this fielder was standing.
Yeah, you have, Abdullah. You've gone into level 2 and level 3 lecturing over there.
Okay.
So well done. Good, thorough answer as usual. Right. Next question is from Keke Letso, and Andy Siwe also asks a similar question. So I'm going to read out both questions before I answer the two of them together. Kekeleto says, can I get a link for the logins because my network is unstable, so I can't watch it now. Andy Siwe says, good afternoon. I missed the part of how you showed us how to log in when we are going to write exams. I would like to know when we write the exams. Will you guys send us an email to log in so that we will be able to write the exams? So the process will be as follows. On Thursday, late afternoon, around 5 p.m., you will all receive an email from me with all the logistics for the exam. And including that on email will be a link to course material. So the presentation that we used for the first 2.5 lectures, as well as the revision slides that Abdullah presented, there will be links to download those 2 slides packages. Then there will be links to the animation videos, and then there will also be links to the video demonstrating how to log in to and start answering the Cricket South Africa Level 1 exam. That is what I did in the last 5 minutes of the presentation earlier today. So then on Friday, you will all receive 2 emails from Umpires Universe, not from me, from Umpires Universe. And I will show what those 2 emails look like on screen. And those 2 emails, you need to use one of them to show to log into the website. So bear with me while I display the 2 emails again. Let me share my screen. Hold on. So this is what the 2 emails look like. And when you receive these 2 emails, it will be anytime between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. on Friday. You need to click on the link on this first email. In fact, the link on the first email is exactly the same as the link on the second email. You click on login, and then you will copy and paste your username, which is your email address, and your password, and that's how you will get onto the website. And from there, it's pretty straightforward. You can watch the demonstration video to learn how to start the Cricket South Africa Introduction to Umpiring exam. So all very straightforward. On tomorrow, late afternoon, you'll receive an email from me giving you course material and exam logistics. And then on Friday, you'll receive 2 emails from Umpires Universe, and you will click on the link to get onto the Cricket Universe or Umpires Universe website, and you will answer your level, your introduction to umpiring exam. Okay. Mulifi says, thank you for the information I get from the lectures about cricket, and I hope everyone understood clearly, and let's grow up the cricket in South Africa. Great words of encouragement there from Mulifi. Thank you very much, and all the best for your cricket career, whichever direction it leads. From Zenobia, thank you, Mr. Tom and Mr. Steenkamp. Really appreciate your help and support. You are welcome, Zenobia. Question from Celia. During the playing period, are players allowed to talk and scream and do anything they want, sing and dance, especially the fielders? Abdullah, can we have a party on the field as cricket players? What is allowed? What is not allowed?
Yeah, so Celia, as soon as the ball becomes alive, as soon as the bowler gives his or her first step now to deliver the ball, everything now needs to be quiet. Players are not allowed to talk now, not allowed to scream, not allowed to do anything. They need to be quiet and everyone is now focusing on the striker because the bowler is now busy running in. So while that happens, no one is allowed to do say anything. If they do, we as an umpires we need to intervene by telling the fielding captain, please captain, tell your players to stay quiet when the ball becomes alive while that bowler is running in. You need to tell your players to stay quiet. So that is why the ball is still alive. I mean, it's not like a morgue on the field. So there are times where, like in between overs, or sometimes in between balls, when the ball is not alive, players will joke with each other. One or two will sing softly. So yeah, there is chatter on the field. It's not everyone needs to have their fingers on their lip for 6 7 hours. No, there is chatter, but when the ball becomes alive and when the bowler is about to bowl, now everyone needs to be quiet and concentrate. Batter needs to concentrate, bowler and the fielders. Over, Tom.
Thanks, Tula. Tabang asks, what do I do if I'm not ready to write on Friday? Tabang, you do not have to be worried. On Friday, when you receive your 2 emails from Umpires Universe, you do not have to attempt the exam immediately. You have a 10-day window period in which to attempt the exam up to 5 times to achieve the required pass mark of 80%. So if you feel that you are not yet ready to write the exam on Friday, that's fine. You still have 10 days in which you can attempt the exam. So you can study over the weekend and you can make your first attempt on Monday if you feel that you are ready on Monday. So do not panic, study, don't cram, don't rush, don't be in a hurry to write the exam just because you get the emails on Friday. You have 10 days up to which you can attempt the exam up to 5 times. And please, if you do not pass your first exam attempt, don't go immediately into the second attempt because you will be tired, your brain will be frazzled, and you will only be more nervous than you were before the first attempt. So take a breather, relax, wait until the next day, go through Abdullah's revision slides again before attempting the exam for a second time. There is no rush to passing. There's no prizes for the candidate who passes the exam first before anyone else. No. As long as you take your time and you're prepared, you should be able to pass. So study first and then make your first attempt. So Zenobia asks, what time does the exam start on Friday? You will all be receiving emails throughout the day. Umpires Universe cannot send you 2 emails all at the same time. There are 2,500 candidates that will be writing the exam. It is impossible for them to send all 2,500 of you those 2 emails at the same time. So they will start at 9 a.m. and they have promised me that by 5 p.m. everybody will have received those 2 emails. So anytime between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m., keep checking your inbox, keep checking your spam folder in case the emails went to your spam folder. So yes, Celia, you will be given the weekend to study if you want to write on Monday. Up to you how you use those 10 days. Right. Andisiwe answering Delia's question. She says it's definitely not acceptable. Once you're on the field, that's when you start thinking and focusing on the game. Andisiwe, it is a game that is to be enjoyed by everyone. And if a fielder wants to sing and dance while they're on the field of play, we shall allow them as long as it's not while the bowler is running up, because then that would distract the striker. I will finish the lecture with an example from a match that I umpired many years ago, Abdullah. I think it was my first season on the national first class panel. Uh, Northwest was playing against Boland, and it was a 3-day game. And I think it was on the third day. The game seemed to be going nowhere for a while. And Lazard Williams, who now plays for South Africa, he was singing on the field and dancing on his own. Welcome to Cape Town. Ba 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 ba. Between deliveries. So that was his way of keeping himself entertained while the game got a little bit boring, and it was completely legal because it was not distracting the batters. It was while the ball was dead when the fielding team was returning the ball from the wicketkeeper to the bowler. So, Andisiwe, if you're ever on the field of play, you can sing and dance just as long as it's not while the ball is alive. I do not see any more questions in the chat box. I do not see any more hands up in the meeting room. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of you for your attendance and your interaction, and I wish you all the best for your exam. Michaelian Johnson, you've got your hand up. Please unmute your microphone and ask your question.
It's actually Q1, but I'm using my cousin's email.
Okay.
I wanted to know if during the game the batsman hits the ball and they're busy running and on the way for a run out, the batsman is in the crease but hits his own stumps. Is it given out?
So, Abdullah, the batters have completed a run, and to make sure that he was in his crease, he slid his bat all the way into the
Yep,
stumps. Is
but
that
it's the
going to be
stumps.
is that
No,
going to be
no,
considered out?
that is
Hit
not
wicket.
out. That is not out. Hit wicket.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Michaela, thank you very much for that question. And thanks to all of you for your attendance and your interaction. This is the longest lecture we've had because of all the interesting questions you have posed. I hope you've all learned something and you will all do well in your exam. And with that, I would like you to all put on your cameras and your microphones so that we can see who has lasted 3 hours and 7 minutes and where you all are. What is the hub which has the most number of candidates in this lecture? Where are you? Shout and scream your name and hub. I am going to say thank you and goodbye from Claremont in Cape Town. Goodbye, everybody. Good luck for
Bye.
your
Bye.
exam.
Bye. Bye. Ishi.